One of the things that I really like about living in Finland is that there's very high levels of trust. It's a high trust society. And in the last day or two, I've been reminded of the fact that Britain is the exact opposite of that. It never used to be, but it's become it. And I've got direct experience of this because I used to be a teacher. And what I'm talking about here is the exam system in Britain. And exams in the olden days, they were used to measure a student's ability to work, in particular under pressure. You know, every student sat the same exam in the same amount of time, and there might be some variations in the quality of marking, but it was about as fair as fair could be. So the best students who could work fastest and most accurately got the best exam results, and employers could look at those exam results with a degree of confidence when doing their recruiting. And the same would apply to universities. Now, the problem with that in England is that you've got a class system, and you've got people who want to lie, cheat and steal to get what they want. So what happened, it's probably been going now for a good 20 years, is that sharp-elbowed parents took advantage of this thing called dyslexia, which is a so-called learning disability. And to get this diagnosis, you have to go and see an educational psychologist, and can be awarded for all sorts of things, you know, apart from faulty spelling and grammar. It can also be awarded if a student writes slowly. And this is all tested, of course, by the educational psychologist. So you can imagine how hard it is for a student who was really keen to get their extra time to write slowly in a written assessment. You know, I kid you not. But anyway, if you had the £300-400 available for the educational psychologist report, you got your extra time, and that still is the case today. Incidentally, the vast majority of the candidates who get awarded extra time from the private sector, the ones that get it in the state sector, the state schools don't have the budget, so it tends to be sharp-elbowed, aspirational middle class types who've heard about this opportunity to get extra time for their kids. And make no mistake, it is a huge advantage. In the subject that I used to teach, which was A-level economics, it was a 2-hour exam for everybody else, but people who got this educational psychologist's report got an extra half an hour, you know, to write their essays, which, as I say, is a huge advantage. So why does all of this matter? Well, I think there's two things. First of all, employers can't know with confidence whether a student's exam results were achieved with extra time or not, because one thing's for sure, this is the disposable diagnosis. You know, as soon as they've got those exam results, it's all forgotten about, and the exam results, the exam certificates rather, don't state whether the student was awarded extra time or not. So the employer, really, it's there's an information gap in the labour market. They don't know whether those exam results were achieved with extra time or not. And, you know, as we all know, or should know, time is money, you know. The UK has got one of the lowest productivity scores in Europe. You know, productivity per worker per hour in the UK is abysmal. And you know, this obviously means, you know, if you're employing people who aren't particularly able, they're a bit slow, and they needed extra time in their exams, that's not great for you as an employer, because you're going to have to spend more on labour, more labour hours are going to be needed. It's going to cost you more money to get the same outcome. And what that means is that your costs are higher, which means you'll probably have to push your prices up for consumers. Consumers probably won't get what they want quickly, because the work's being done by somebody who's slow. And then also the shareholder suffers, because the higher costs caused by the lower productivity is going to affect the dividends, the profits that get distributed to the shareholders. So, this is just one example of how Britain's deteriorated. If you were to go back 30, 40 years, the idea that some people would get to sit a public exam and answer the same questions and get 25% more time to answer those questions, and that fact wouldn't even be written on the students' exam certificates. It would have been, no one would have imagined that would possibly be the case. But for me, it just shows the level of corruption, and also the kids know it too. Some of the places that I've worked in the past, there was a lot of animosity between kids who, either the kids or their parents or both, who tried to swing the lead and buy an advantage in the form of extra time. These people were quite unpopular, but it's a bit like the 1970s Tetley Bittermen advert. If you can't beat them, join them. And what happens is that you just get this race to the bottom. If somebody else sees somebody cheating, they'll try and do the same thing. And before you know it, you end up with a low trust society, which is what Britain's become. And I guess you reap what you sow, and that's all I want to say about that. So God bless.